Hi there, and welcome to the Experience Podcast. I'm Dennis. Um, Grateful to be here. I assist people coming from the old world. I'm a bridge for them to come from the old world into the new, or in other language, from the matrix to the new earth. And so that's why I'm here today, is to be that bridge for people. So um, go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll get started.
I'm Sarah Jean.
My name's Neal. Now, Neal just so happens to be my name. It's not actually who I am. Who I am is a child of God the Father. I'm a multi-dimensional infinite being that's expressing through this human body. And I was born ready. And ever since then, I've been ready. And
What are you ready for?
I'm prepared for what the moment calls for. And what this moment is calling for is for vulnerability. And if you're somebody who's interested in actually being vulnerable and actually opening up your heart and actually taking a step in faith when you don't even know what it's going to look like after you take the step, if that's you, I'm a coach who assists conscious people in their 20s and 30s exit the matrix and be with their soul family. And if you're that, like if you're waking up and you're seeing this matrix, that's a mind matrix. That's a matrix of perception. It's a matrix of expectation. It's a matrix of opinions. It's a matrix of my truths. I assist you in navigating that, exiting those programs, and living the truth. And as a byproduct of living the truth, you are surrounded by other people who live the truth. And you're only surrounded by other people who live the truth if who chooses it? You. So if you choose it, reach out to my Snapchat, reach out to my email, and send me a direct message that says natural balance, and we'll have a conversation. And that is right now. And right now is vulnerability. And vulnerability is when you go from all these programs that are in the brain, and you take a program that's in your brain that's been put there by a parent or by a teacher or by society, and you take that program out of your brain, you put it in front of you, and you speak to that program like a picture in words so that somebody else can see that program and look at it clearly. And you're being vulnerable by illuminating what's inside of you that the programming tells you not to share.
So I have a question for you. Where was vulnerability present for you this week? Like a real life example.
It's present right now.
Okay.
It's present when my heart's open, and my heart is fully open right now, and so vulnerability is here now, and it's always available, and it's only a matter of, are we gonna focus on vulnerability? Are we gonna keep our heart open? Or are we gonna focus on something else? And so it's here now.
Vulnerability it's one of my most favorite topics that brings up a lot for me. I want to live a authentic and connected life, but being vulnerable also brings up a lot of fears. Fears of being rejected, or fears of being judged or misunderstood. And the power of it, though, is a courageous act to show your true self, to be honest and to have your true self be seen. And it creates deep, meaningful relationships. It connects people with the heart rather than mind thinking. And it leaves you to where your emotions can be exposed. You know, you're raw and you're it's almost like a feeling of exposing the wounds that are hidden deep within inside of ourselves. So what it means to be vulnerable for me is taking off the mask. Mine, I created 3 different ways of being as a child. Was tough. Like I had to be tough to protect myself. And I had to like be the comedian and laugh and make someone joke, you know, like make a joke to feel like I'm seen and heard. And that was my form of like connection. And also charming. Like I would want to be liked. So I would have awarenesses of, you know, what people like, and I would try to be that for them. So those are the masks. Those are not who I was. And the underneath is like this innocent, pure light. And sometimes we mistake vulnerability for weakness or being a victim, and that is not what we're talking about here. It just shows the authenticity of what we're truly feeling inside. It's not like a blamey or casting judgments or shame on other people. It's exposing the true emotion of what's hidden, what wants to be seen. And so, like, as men, what is it like for you guys to be vulnerable?
A shit show. It's a shit show to be vulnerable because it is exactly the opposite of what society has programmed my brain to be. So to be vulnerable is to go against every matrix program, because the matrix program I'm programmed with is the strong survive and the weak die off. So be strong, man up. Yeah, you can be vulnerable, but don't show that to people, because, so I'm literally speaking to programs right now.
Yeah.
Be vulnerable, like don't be vulnerable with other people, because then um, they'll have a way to hurt you. And so to start being vulnerable was scary as all get out. And the reason it was scary was because I was still around the people that the programs had come from, and I was still living in the society that actually still believed the programs that I spoke to. And in the time when I was in that matrix and I was around those people and in that society, and specifically in the location of Indiana in the United States, when I lived in that location where this matrix program it's deep, and when I lived there, being vulnerable, I wasn't fully vulnerable. I was only semi-vulnerable, and I only let out aspects of my vulnerability, maybe to like my immediate family, and then I would not be vulnerable at all, like let's say in a work environment, and then what happens when you're, for example, when I wasn't vulnerable in, let's say, like a work environment, what happens was that a part of me, and specifically the vulnerable part of me, would be like shut off, and then a mask would come up, which would be, for me, it was like a tough mask, like a I got this mask, and so then there was part of who I am that wasn't being expressed, and it was actually not only being expressed, it was being suppressed. And what I wasn't was being expressed. And because I was compensating for not being vulnerable by being tough and manly and strong. And so I only let out aspects of my vulnerability. And then I continued to deepen that and to express my vulnerability more. And it came through insight of, you know what, if I don't fully express who I am, if I actually suppress an aspect of who I am, then that's actually a part of who I am that's dying inside of me. But if I fully express who I am, I can fully live, like fully expressed, and my physical body might die because of that, but it's irrelevant because my soul is alive and is on fire and is fully expressed. And the reason I was only like partially expressing with the vulnerability was specifically because I thought that it was a way that my physical body actually would get hurt by other people. And actually, there's actually evidence to back that up, because it actually, when I was vulnerable, that actually did happen. And at some point, there's this thing called a fuck it, which is like when you let go of like what other people think, and the only way to do that is to love yourself to the degree that the way somebody else looks at you doesn't have an effect on the love that you have inside of yourself. And so I reached a level of fuck it, where I was like, fuck it, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to express who I am. And then whatever happens after that, if this physical body does pass, it's irrelevant because I'm fully expressed. And that is what's relevant to my soul. And that's what has capacity to light other people up. And that's what has capacity to be, a light of vulnerability and authenticity in a matrix of lies and deception.
Beautiful. Beautiful share. What about you? What are fears that come up for you that are associated with vulnerability?
Yeah. For me, it was also being seen as small, being seen as weak. I had similar experience to Neal. Like I went so far as to even take steroids because I was building my ego to the point, because people in the past did see me as small. And so the program that I was living in is I am actually small and weak. So in order to get on the other side of that, I thought in order to not be weak and not be small is I got to get big and I got to get tough. So I started going to the gym all the time, like 6 days a week, possibly sometimes 7 days a week. I started shooting up steroids. Got to the point where I could barely wipe my ass with toilet paper. My arms were so big. And then I came to Costa Rica, and what I've learned since then, the first time that I was very vulnerable, like actually vulnerable, was like 3 months after I got here at Earthwaking Village. And we were sitting and we did a border run down to Panama to renew my passport. And actually, I'm going to rewind just a little bit. So for me, the vulnerability is a state of confessing. It's a state of confessing that, hey, like there's possibly some judgment here. Like there's some things that I'm hiding in the tunnel. And I don't know how this is going to land, but I'm fucking tired of feeling all this weight on my shoulders. And I'm just going to say the fucking thing. And so it's a state, for me, the journey was confessing to people that I trusted. And then it was a state of repenting. And then loving that innocent little boy, that innocent little Dennis, prior to whatever it was that I was judging myself of. And so we were in Panama coming back, and we were like 30 minutes away from our destination, and all of a sudden the traffic stopped. And I had been to an Awaken Life Live, a 3-day transformational event that Earthwaking hosts. And one of the things that was brought up that weekend is like, well, what are you hiding? Like, what are you hiding? So I'm going to ask you, what are you hiding? What's heavy? Like, what if you were vulnerable and you just spoke the thing would allow you to be completely transformed and wipe the slate clean to where now all that weight would be removed from your shoulders and you could have a brand new start? That's a question for you. And so when the traffic stopped, the people that were with me, they were like, okay, who's responsible for this traffic jam? Like, why is the traffic not moving? What's energy that's in the motion that's not moving? Confession to make. I did this thing to my sister when I was a little kid. I said, I've been holding it in for fucking over 30 years. Actually, it would be more like 20 years. And, but I had all this judgment on myself. And I was like, oh, fuck. The moment I said it, I watched myself say it. And then we got to destination. And we have this breakthrough process that we have here in the community that we do. So I went through that, and then the next morning I came to the breakfast table and I confessed in front of the whole community. And I just literally, like, I wept. For the first time in my life, like, I just wept. So for me, vulnerability is also like a state of crying. You know, in the Bible, it talks about in our weakness, we're strong. And I may be weak. Like the Dennis, the shell that you're seeing may be weak, but what's coming through Dennis is infinite. It's Jesus Christ. It's the Holy Spirit. And through him is who I have my strength. So, like, I don't give a fuck. I do give a fuck about this. And that's not where my strength comes from. My strength comes from the Holy Spirit and from Jesus Christ. So, it's in the crying, it's in the tears, like it's a release valve. So I would say repenting, confessing, loving the little child, seeing yourself as whole and complete in Jesus Christ, and moving forward from that space is my recipe.
I love that. I'm seeing the benefits of being vulnerable. Well, one, it creates deep, meaningful relationships, authenticity, self-acceptance, and compassion for oneself. You know, and to expose the parts of ourselves that we need something higher than ourselves.
And what do you mean by something higher than ourselves?
God.
Oh,
Jesus Christ.
Something.
Yeah. Because that's really what it is. We're praised when we're kids. Like I was praised for being tough. I was praised for, you know, like being the tough girl and standing up for myself, and reprimanded for crying. I'd have to cry alone. I'd have to go in the cry room and deal with that stuff by myself. And so there wasn't an emotional literacy of how to handle emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it was like you're praised for the thing that you're actually not, but it's what somebody else wants you to become, because that's how you're supposed to get by in the world. And you get rewarded and you get accepted and you get approval and praise, and that starts getting built up so much. But the thing that actually gets built up emotionally is packed and stacked and shoved down until it explodes. And most of the time it comes out as anger or frustration. And we don't even know all the little things of where when we were sad or we, felt disregarded or rejected or misunderstood or any of those things, it comes out as anger and we don't even know because we're not present in the present moment with how something actually makes us feel. And recently I've been developing this vulnerability and I still struggle with it because I've been going 30 something years developing my ego and what I thought was accepted by the world. And now I'm living as a spiritual being, having a human experience and not a human having a spiritual experience. So I'm cultivating my spirit and growing my spirit more. And that has to release all the things that I thought needed to protect my flesh. And boy, is it fucking scary. It is so scary because all the times as I was a kid when I was vulnerable or showing up like that, it was like, go tell your mom or go tell your dad or go in the room or handle it, by yourselves. It wasn't easy. I'm not saying it was like that all the time, but it wasn't easy. It's just what built the story for me to keep protecting myself and wall up and hide myself away from exposing those parts. And just the other day, I recognized this and exposed myself in front of everyone here. And the power that comes with vulnerability is when you drop into that space and show your true self and have the courage to show what it is that you're actually feeling, it invites other people around you to also feel that power as well within inside of themselves. And I'm so grateful for that I don't have to be this tough person anymore, that I can be feminine, that I don't have to be an alpha masculine to try to protect myself and dominate or control. I can actually king make, and uplift and support and listen before I emotionally react to something. And to develop that, it takes time. But I really see the importance of that. I did write some other questions in here about that.
I have a question for
Yeah.
you. Would you mind taking us on that journey that you went on over the past couple of days? Because what I saw was an absolute transformation, literally you going into the dark cave and shining light on what it was that you were so afraid to shine light on, and then coming out, and it was the transformation that you went through, when you shined light on it, it was like you were glowing, you were literally this glowing aura around your field, just radiating. And I'm just would you be open to sharing that experience?
Yeah, I was at Grace too. We were building a compost toilet, and one of the members here is a massive gift to me.
Gifts don't always seem like what they are.
They don't show up the way that you think that they do. And my prayers were being answered. And I was collecting rocks for the trail to go into the compost toilet. And one of the guys goes, hey, don't collect those. Don't use those. Freddie wants to use those. And I ignored him because of the energy of which he was speaking to me. And he said it again in a louder tone. And then I responded, I heard you, with like a fuck you energy, and then
what was the energy you felt coming at you from this person?
Anger, and if I didn't do what he told me to do, then I would be punished. But that was the story of what I was hearing when the person was saying it was the energy. I was listening to the survival technique of how I respond to that energy.
But even just you speaking to that right now, like, hey, this is what the energy I felt coming at me. That's vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if this is actually the energy that was coming at me, but you know what? This is what I felt.
Yeah.
That's authentic. That's vulnerability.
And I didn't say that in the moment. I didn't say that right then. And then he said it again. He got louder and he goes, Sarah, like, fucking stop using that, you know? And I just felt the energy and I was like, I grabbed the shovel that I was using and I slammed it into the ground and I like stood up and I was like, are you going to say that to me again? And it was almost like I was coming back at him like, you don't want to fuck with me. I'm going to get bigger than you. And the thing was that it grew my ego in that moment even more because I got it. It stopped. It worked. It had him stop talking to me that way. And that's where the false identity comes in, is where when it works. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that tough person. I don't want to have to defend myself. There's nothing that I need to be protected from. And he didn't do anything wrong. And it was actually a moment where I could have responded in love and faith and trying to understand that where did this come from and why is it that he's speaking to me that way? Maybe there was some importance that he was trying to relay. And I had no listening mode for that at all. And it was really difficult for me to say that in the moment because I felt like I was being attacked, you know, and if I didn't do what he said, I'd be punished for it. And then when I brought the awareness to everyone at Dysfunction Junction that we have here, it's like a part of myself that's innocent and weak, and I didn't want to be seen as a victim, and I didn't want to have that part be shown because in the past, I always had to wall off, and I felt like this massive pain in my chest, and I just kept opening, and I kept leaning in, and I kept expressing how I truly felt, and I was bawling, you know, because I actually heard my true self. I heard the true voice of who I actually am, that feminine, vulnerable, soft, gentle space that was scared, that was genuinely just scared. And I could have spoke that and things could have been differently in the moment when it matters, you know, instead of to grow in the aspects of ourselves.
In the moment, like when somebody's like, hey, like, don't do that thing, like, and there's energy with it, like, to be vulnerable in that is like, in the Matrix, man, you get like a knife straight in your heart or straight chopping off your head when you're vulnerable around closed off people, around programmed people. So this is a thing. Like it is a massive thing to have energy coming at you and to open up and be like, here it is. Like, yeah, come on, welcome, angry energy, because I'm aware that I'm in love, and if this energy is coming at me, it's gonna either bring out anger inside of me if there's any in me, or if I'm actually authentically in love, it'll transmute into love energy. And then what happens is, and that if I'm actually in love and the anger is coming here, then that love has capacity to literally alter the energy coming in and potentially change the entire course of the conversation or the event.
Yeah.
But it's a thing to be vulnerable then.
Yeah. The big thing that I even said, you know, on Monday was, I'm just afraid to keep opening my damn heart because every time that I open my heart, I feel like I just get fucking stabbed, you know? And it's like, I don't know if I want to do that. And just even me saying that, it was like I was allowing myself to actually feel how I've been feeling, like how, like that voice, that little girl that just wanted to be heard, like, and spoke about this.
And then,
like, yeah, like it released a lot, just to even just speak up and to say the thing. And now I'd want to open my heart and be stabbed 1,000 times over and over and over again, if it means to keep my feelings alive and to be authentic and to be honest and true, and watch how it'll transform someone else's life. The whole room was transformed that night.
So how does one keep, you just mentioned something that I feel is very valuable in this conversation. You said to keep one's feelings alive. How does a person do that?
Just practicing. It's practice. Like, practice self-awareness, practice like emotions. Like, what are you truly feeling? Like, I definitely recommend creating something that you can, like in a channel, like journaling or something that you can, like, what was that feeling that just came up? Most people only feel certain emotions. It's like, oh, I only feel sadness or anger or frustration or peace. And most of the time we think that we get the emotion or something when we have something from the outside. No, these actually are generated from the inside out, and we're using the outside world to take us where we live emotionally in our home. And so you actually have the choice and the power to generate these feelings from the inside out. And our true state of being is peace, love, and joy. It's not anything else. If anything outside of those fruits is not you. And so getting an awareness of what is not you and what emotions you're allowing to drive your body or drive your vessel, that's, I highly recommend it, and there's like over, I think, 80 different emotions. There's not just the handful that we think that we have. There's anguish, there's jealousy, there's uh, depression. There's so many different ones. Enlightened, like joy and happiness.
And emotions are energy in motion, and like it, so they're gonna pass. And sometimes when we're in it, we think that they're not gonna pass. But the truth is, this too shall pass. The only constant is change. And pain is a label that we put on something that we feel. And pain doesn't hurt, but resisting pain hurts. But accepting that something is being felt and acknowledging that is through this acceptance that that's what gives me capacity to keep my heart open. And what somebody else might call pain, I might call like a purification process. And it's all in the context of what I'm feeling. It's not the feeling per se, it's the label we put on the feeling. Pain is a word that we've put to describe something that is an experience in the physical body. And it's only the resistance of that is what generates the suffering in us.
And it's actually so emotions aren't good or bad. There's no right or wrong emotion. When I come from the awareness that I'm a spirit, and if I'm feeling frustrated or angry, those emotions are not good or bad. It's just what kind of fruits do I want? So if I want to be in a state of peace, love, and joy, and I'm feeling angry, if I'm feeling frustrated, it's about looking at what was the root cause of where that emotion came from. And I'm not going to go into it here, but if you want further direction on how to transmute those emotions, make sure to reach out to one of us and we can assist you on that. But I feel personally, this is just an awareness that I've had over the past couple of days, is really just looking at emotions just as they are, not making them good, bad, right, or wrong,
Yeah.
and just seeing them for they are. And I also just want to point out too, with what Neal and Sarah shared, like this in the old world, in the Matrix, we're taught to live from here. So as soon as you go from here to your emotions, just be aware that it's not right or wrong, good or bad. It just is what it is, and the state of heaven is right here.
And,
so it's going from here through the emotions into your heart.
And like us being human, us being in form, like our gift is to feel. Like literally that's our gift as creation, as being created. Like we are, as a human body, it's this embodiment in form. It's through this body that we have capacity to feel. If we're not in this body, if we're just in the ether as spirit, there emotion might be present, but it's this ethereal thing that I think we don't have capacity to fully experience in spirit. And so being in form, I think, is part of the reason we're in form, is to literally experience emotion and to literally have the expression of it inside of us, and to have situations that so that we can feel this emotion in form. And then when we are in spirit, we remember what we emotionally felt in form, and we remember the growth that we've experienced from being in form. And so I think like a big part of being in form in a human body is the experience of feeling emotion.
Something else that I just saw too is that it's not vulnerability isn't like doing something. It's actually a way of being. Mm-hmm. And I want to acknowledge you, Sarah, for your way of being earlier, when you didn't take us all the way through the journey, but I saw you starting to get emotional. And so that was a real life example of being vulnerable. So thank you. And I would love to hear more if you want to take us further on that journey.
Well, I mean, what's present right now is like emotions are to be felt fully. You know, they're not something to eradicate. They're not something to get rid of. They are meant to be an indicator of like, hey, you're kind of moving this way, or you're moving this way. Don't do this. Walk away from that. And when we get in tune with them, not let them drive, not have our emotions drive us. You know, we've been taught and conditioned and trained to seek pleasures versus then sitting with the pain or sitting with the thing, and it's not bypassing it. It's actually sitting with it to see, what is it that you're trying to tell me? We're not here to like create better feelings. We're here to get better at feeling, you know, and feeling our emotions like when they come and when they arise, and not to direct that or to push it onto someone else and create someone else to have a different responsibility for it. It's not anybody else's, it's ours to take responsibility for it. And you give what you get, and you reap what you sow. And we wonder why this world is in the state that it's in, is because we're constantly thinking it's somebody else's responsibility for how they're showing up. And yes, that's true. Though we do have a responsibility to respond ably the way that we'd like to see this world. And we do have the power to do that. And we can do it one person at a time. And it starts when we say, yes, I'll go first. I'll be vulnerable. I will lay on my sword. I will allow my heart to be open and take the daggers every single time, so you can see what true love is. And the person that is the only one that's ever walked this earth, that's ever done this, that is someone to follow is Jesus Christ. He was the most vulnerable person that's ever lived. And that's what we're here doing, is following in that teaching, following in that way and that lifestyle to bring what's hidden in the darkness inside of ourselves that want to be brought up into the light. And in this process, I encourage to have boundaries with the people in which you do speak these out with whatever way you're in. Create an A team, people that you trust and people that you know that love you and love you unconditionally and will tell you the truth, and create an environment in which supports you and people who care about you and care about your well-being, care about your soul, and want to see the growth inside of you, and will not ridicule or shove you down. It'll build you up and lift you up. Um, so yeah, I encourage that. Reach out for support if you need support in this journey, and vulnerability.
And
Yeah.
and where might people reach out for an ATM or for support?
Well, earthwakingvillage.com. I highly recommend going to the Earthwaking Village. That's where we're at. That's where we're currently located. These are my soul tribe. We live here in the village in Costa Rica, and we have a whole team that's here to support. The greatest A team alive right now for this work. And you can reach out to any one of us. Our information will be in the chat.
Yeah, and it's resistance to vulnerability is what really hurts, and it's the acceptance of vulnerability is what is graceful and easeful, and the navigation of the emotions that is flow, and it's like a dance at that point. When resistance is gone, the need to experience pain goes with the resistance.
Yeah. And think about this, we all just want to be loved for who we actually are, but we've been in a world that we haven't even been ourselves. Our vulnerability is access to our true self. It's access to our authenticity and who we truly are. And so developing that and developing the relationship with that is actually cultivating the relationship that you have to your real self, not the ideal self, not the real self, whatever, like that you're putting on to get affection or attention or significance or approval or worth inside of this life. You were created to be enough. You've always been enough. And it's in the vulnerability that you actually get to express who you were always created to be. And so that's number one, highest priority is that. Yeah.
That feels complete. Is there more you want to add?
I love you.
You got anything else you want to put into the space? I got an invitation. The invitation is to repeat after me. I'm worth it.
I am worth it.
I'm worth it.
And with that, peace.
Ciao.